guys?
Coach Rocco, how are you today?
Good.
How are you,
How's
sir?
everybody doing, right? Everybody doing okay?
Yeah.
Take it as a win. Yes. Yes. You're the one I was most concerned about, John. It's interesting.
Coach, we'll start with an opening statement. We'll let these guys get some questions in. We have someone from Peoria, Illinois on the phone. We'll let him grab a couple questions as well.
Okay, it's been a good week. I think that weeks like this or situations like this really demonstrate the need and value of teamwork. I think that I've had great support from our administration here this week, great support from Keith Gill, our athletic director, David Walsh, our deputy assistant athletic director. You're working through so many different issues to try to put together a schedule that you can feel excited about and a schedule that you can believe in. And if I don't feel good about it, then I'm going to have a hard time selling it to our student athletes. So Bruce Matthews, our academic coordinator, associate AD, and in charge of that, Felicia Bergman. So I think that we've put together a schedule that gives us the best chance to address all the things that need attention. Obviously, with finals going on this week, that's a very important part of being a student athlete, and we certainly want to offer our student athletes the best opportunity to be successful with the finals and their semester. And then obviously the preparation for this playoff game is just as critical. So I think as a collective unit here, we've been able to put together a good plan, and we're going to continue to advance our plan today as we'll practice at 2:30, and then we'll look to depart for the airport to arrive a day early into Illinois. So I'll take questions here at this time.
Danny, a week or so ago, you mentioned that full speed ahead looking forward. However, at this time, do you mention the 2008 team and road wins required to win that championship and bring that up in any way, shape, or form?
Oh, boy, I haven't yet. I have a pretty good feel for what I'm going to say here later in the week. It was an interesting week this way, John, in that I probably didn't plant as many seeds on the front end of the week because they had so much going on. There was so much going on this week that I just wanted them to be able to be where they were when they were there. And I encouraged them, wherever you are, be connected. And if you're studying, study. If you're taking an exam, focus on taking the exam. Oh, we're going to football practice now. Focus on being where you're at when you're there. So some of those things that I might have offered early in the week, I really haven't offered because I don't know if they'd really hear them in those moments, The schedules are different and changing, for the student athletes, so they need information. They need to be able to plan. They need to be able to be organized. So my ability to give them that, I think, is more important this week at this stage than some thoughts about this game and winning this game and advancing in this tournament. But I have a lot of really, really excited, good stuff that I'm looking forward to really sharing. And I do think that I'll continue with the message that somebody in this tournament's going to make a run, and why not us? And we have had a history here of being able to do that.
Coach, the numbers between these two teams are fairly comparable, but how comparable are the two conferences where you're stacking those numbers up against?
I have really, my entire staff has enjoyed studying the Missouri Valley Conference. It's been a very good for us to be able to gauge and to assess the other teams in that league, the talent, the style of play. I've enjoyed it immensely. Just taking a look at the different systems, and it's a very physical league. I think it's a blue-collar league. They probably are a little more run-oriented holistically in that league. Weather may have a little something to do with that. I've learned a lot about geography this week. And I'm very impressed with their league and the physicality and the coaching that is going on in that league. Now, having said that, you know that I am, fully on board here with the CAA and the accomplishments in our league and the successes, the coaches, the resumes of these coaches, the banners that hang. I mean, there's a lot of things in our league that I think are very, very unique. So having said that, more similarities and differences. I think as I looked at the leagues, I think some of the teams in our league here may be a little more open offensively, maybe a little more likely to be pass-first type of programs, where you don't see quite as much of that in my study, to this point in the Missouri Valley Conference.
One of the final 8 teams still standing. Do you see your guys grasping the gravity of that, but handling it well still? Yeah,
I think it's very much so. I had mentioned earlier, I spoke of it a little bit yesterday, this group's been very attentive, since last January. I talked often about how badly we felt leaving Coastal Carolina last year, and it left a bad taste in my mouth, and I offered a lot of accolades to Coastal in my post-game press conference down there at Conway, South Carolina. I talked about the physicality of their team, and I needed to see it to believe it, and I saw it and I believed it, and so that's done nothing but helped spark and advance our program. So when our kids came back from Christmas break a year ago, I was kind of on edge a little bit, and they heard it. They didn't like it, and they have been pretty much paying attention and been very attentive, and I think they recognize where we're at, and and for the student athlete, for the coach, there's always the chance that the coach returns. The coach might return, in a year or 2 or 3, to put himself in this place again. But for the student athlete, this could be their shot, and so they got to understand the gravity of that situation.
You mentioned the weather. Looks agreeable.
Yeah.
Relatively speaking.
Yeah, very much so. I think that, whatever 52 feels like here, it's going to feel 10 degrees. Their 52 is not going to feel like 52 here. I know that for fact. And their wind is not going to feel like ours. But those are kind of the numbers that you're hearing. I'm pretty sure one of the interesting things about, playing on these shorter weeks and playing teams that you don't have the familiarity with is when you study the cut-ups, because you want to look at their season and volume, not every game, but you don't always follow the flow of the season. So you're not always just this week and then the next week and then the next week to see how the team evolves. And that's something that I do as the head coach that my assistants really won't spend as much time doing. They're looking at formations and tendencies. I'm looking at the season holistically and how their team has improved and how have injuries affected their team and when were they at their best. But I think it was their last game of the year, probably been the weekend that we played William and Mary here for our season-ending game. They played at home in an absolute snowstorm. And, the field was just covered in snow. They had the hash marks plowed. They had the goal line plowed. They had the sidelines plowed. But beyond that, it was just covered in snow, and I loved it. I said, this is reminded me of playing high school football back in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And so we're not going to have that. So working backwards from that, it's not going to be that. We were up in Philadelphia a couple weeks ago, and I thought it was probably a similar type of climate to what we'll probably get Friday night.
How do you get, especially your defense, prepared for the type of rushing attack that you probably didn't see during the regular season, and how can you replicate something that is done as well as they do it?
Yeah, that's a great question for a number of reasons, but one of the reasons is that as the season has evolved, they've morphed a little bit offensively. So you have to be aware of, what you're watching and when it was during the course of the season. So, I went back and spoke with Sean McDowell here yesterday just about their matchup a year ago. And we've watched that film, and that's a different looking offense than what we watched the last 4 or 5 weeks. So it's very critical that we were able to see that offense that they ran last year in that game, because it opens up another set of things that we've got to be tuned into. So there's a lot of dynamics that go into it. They've been very conventional, I'd say, the last several weeks, and they've been able to control and run the ball. But I would anticipate a little more volume of offense and playbook, and we certainly got to be ready for anything that they throw at us.
Coach Rocco, how much more critical does continuing the balance you guys have shown offensively become at this point in the season against a team like Illinois State?
Well, I think, it's very important. I think that, from our perspective offensively, we've got to assess early what it is they're trying to do to stop us. And again, if you watched, you think and pick the games, but we look totally different in maybe these 3 games offensively than maybe we did these 3 games. So we have a pretty deep playbook and menu ourselves. And, what we've done here most recently is not necessarily what we've done all year. But having said that, there's an awful lot of comfort on our sideline when we're running the ball and when Jacoby's getting first downs. And I'm sure nothing, Kyle's in the back of the room here. I'm sure there's nothing that he enjoys more than that. I know as the head coach, it's, another first down. That's awesome. He's moving the ball. We're getting these guys blocked. And it just makes life so much easier for everybody involved. So it's going to be important, the balance. But as I have said all along, it all starts with the run game. And I'd say the same thing about their football team. Sometimes you get in a game like this, and either team might come out and throw the ball 5-6 times in a row. But at the end of the day, they're going to run the ball. And I think that's certainly the mindset.
Can you overstate a 19-game home winning streak or no?
No, I don't think you can. Obviously, there has to be a lot of things that go into that, but the most consistent thing is that they've got a good product. And I really admire their product and what they have done, what Coach has done there during his tenure. And they play in a really good league, so they're beating some really good teams there at home. So I think in that vein, I think the reality of some unfamiliarity with their opponent offers us, more justification, I think, to feel like we can go in there and find a way to win a football game.
Johnny, do you have anything for Coach Rocco?
No, they've actually covered a lot of the stuff. But the only thing I would ask is, what about getting back to Friday Night Lights? Did the Friday night game go back to some high school days?
Well, it does for me. I have mentioned it. You actually stole my lead into my team meeting today, but I think our kids are excited about that. There's a lot of things to be excited about, and I do think that is one of them. We have, if you're following college football in any way, shape, or form, there aren't a whole lot of games Friday night this week. So people are going to be tracking this game on ESPN3 and whatever other outlets you can get it on, and a lot of my student athletes certainly are very familiar with Friday Night Lights and played high school football in the same circumstances. Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Coach.
Yes, sirs.
be right up for questions.
Hey, you can draw a lot of parallels between Vad Lee and Trey Roberson, quarterback from Illinois State. You know, from being former starters at FBS schools to really elevating their programs they got to. On the field, do you see the similarities?
Yeah, I definitely do. I might say that Roberson might be more dangerous of a runner than Vad Lee was. I mean, that's hard to say, but there definitely are a lot of similarities. They both try to extend plays down the field. They both look to pass first, and then, I mean, if there's nothing there, they try to run, either extend the play or take off for scrambles. So I mean, there's definitely a lot of similarities. And I mean, as a defense, you got to just stay locked on to your receivers downfield, and as a pass rusher, try to keep them boxed in so he can't extend plays and make dangerous plays.
Did anyone on this team have to be reminded that these guys were in the title game last year?
Coach mentioned it. Most of us already knew that, but we're not really paying attention to that. I mean, we're just kind of focusing on this game and this moment on Friday night, and what happened in the past. Doesn't really mean much for us this year, especially because their team graduated quite a few seniors, like our team did, and so you never know from year to year, especially when the team is this much different than it was the previous year.
I know you guys try to approach every game the same, but do you kind of notice a certain buzz around the locker room? You guys are one of the last 8 teams standing.
I mean, there's definitely a good buzz around the locker room. I mean, just to be to this point in the playoffs, I mean, it's definitely a great feeling. I mean, it's an honor, to be one of the last teams, to be able to say that you're one of the last 8 teams left, and we just try to approach it with a lot of focus and a lot of that's it really. I mean, just try to be focused on the task at hand and try to advance to the next round of the playoffs.
Hey, Kyle, who chooses what color helmets you wear, and how do you feel about these white ones in which you're undefeated?
To be honest, I don't even know who chooses the helmets, but I think we definitely like the white helmets. They look sharp, and like you said, we've won when we're wearing them, so I don't think anybody's going to argue about wearing those helmets.
Friday night wear white.
Yeah, absolutely. So.
I mean, the fact that you're playing against a finalist from last year, but also the fact that for the first time in maybe 2 or 3 weeks, you're not watching tape of green and gold. I mean, does that alone get people to perk up a little bit in meetings? The fact, here's somebody else, and not just somebody else, somebody we've never seen before. Does that sharpen the focus a little bit?
Absolutely. Whenever you watch a new team, there's you kind of start your routine over again. With William and Mary, it was unique how we played them twice in a row, and we were watching a lot of the same film. So I know I was definitely excited. Coach Fisher, that was one of the first things he said after we won that second round game was, man, I'm excited to watch some new guys on the defense. So definitely watching new guys play is exciting, and just throughout the week, just trying to see what they're doing and stuff is definitely better than just watching the same guys over and over again.
Hey, Kyle, the road games against playoff level competition are not easy, but obviously, unless you're one of the highest seeds, they're required if you want to move on. What's the key to winning on the road? You've had some good road wins this year.
Mm-hmm. I think it's just kind of worrying about yourselves and not worrying about what they're doing. Just not get caught up in the environment and in the moment, and just kind of stay focused, and you don't really approach it any differently. Especially with our win at JMU, we're kind of used to playing in a big atmosphere like that. We scored 59 points in an atmosphere that was, loud, hard to hear the calls, and even sometimes hard to hear the play in the huddle. So it's definitely something we're used to, and we've succeeded before in environments like that. So nobody's worried, and just kind of not getting caught up in the moment, but at the same time embracing it. Always playing in a big stadium is exciting, even if it is the away crowd. And I'm sure we'll have a great Richmond crowd out there too.
Coach said that since January, you guys have all been really attentive, and he said that the loss in last year's playoffs to Coastal was a real spark for you guys and left a sour taste. Is that something that you noticed that a lot of guys draw on, at this stage?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, going down to Coastal last year and getting beat the way we did kind of was an eye opener. It did, like Coach Rocco said, it left a sour taste in our mouth, and it showed us that maybe at that point in time we weren't ready, you know, for that level of playoff football. So, I mean, kind of the whole off season, our focus and our goal was, you know, try to take that next step as a team and as a program, and just trying to, you know, doing whatever it takes, whether it's, you know, extra lifting, extra film study, whatever it might take to, you know, to advance your program or take that next step and kind of be among that tier of teams who contend in the playoffs every year.
Outside of Friday night's final score, is there a way to determine whether or not you've not done enough, but, you know, made that your focus this year, all year long, over the last 11 months?
I mean, it's hard to say. I think we've taken a step forward. I mean, till this point now, I think we've taken a step forward from last year. So, I mean, I would consider, you know, this season as a success and that we've, you know, taken kind of the next step. But, I mean, it's still, I mean, it remains to be seen. I mean, depending on the outcome of this game on Friday, I mean, that could really, you know, go to show how far we've come in a year's time.
Anything else? Thank you, John.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, guys.